For those of you who don't know me, my name is Jason Parson. I'm with Atlona. I've been with the company since the inception of the acquisition of Panduit, which has been a great acquisition for the company. So I'm sure most of you know who Panduit is and what we do. They're our parent company, which is definitely a good thing. How many were at this event last year in Helena? One. John, you were here last year?
I was in Chicago.
You were in Chicago? Okay, in Chicago, got it. So I'm going to run through the same presentation that I did last year because a lot of folks were not at the event last year in Helena, and I had people reach out that had heard about it and said, hey, can we get that presentation, or could you please do it again this year? So we're going to opt to do the same thing this year, but kind of show some additional USB strategy and kind of where USB is going. I have Donald Trent in the room as well. He's our national sales engineer. He's been with us for 10 years. He was with Extron for 7 to 8 years. So if you have questions during the presentation, please ask. I like this to be interactive. There's no right or wrong question, no right or wrong answer. So let's kind of jump into this. How many people here run your AV networks, infrastructure, have been in AV sound video for more than 5 years? More than 10 years? More than 15 years? Okay, so who goes back to 3-gun projectors and all that happy good stuff? Yeah. Who would have thought that USB would have been a technology that we would see prevalent in the classroom in the last couple years? Probably not a whole lot of us. The one thing that I've seen over the years, and I'm 52 years old, is I never thought that we'd be passing video and audio over a single little tiny USB-C cable. And so the company and our management team and the engineering side of this saw that this was going to become a coming trend and said, hey, how do we incorporate USB into AV platforms and make it easy for our AV users, specifically in the education space. So that's kind of, we're going to kind of go through some of the inceptions of USB, where it's come from, where it's going, where we see it going, how we've invested in it, how we see it valuable for you as the end user customer. Again, if you have any questions, please feel free to jump in. I'm going to start with cable types. I think everybody probably has used or has seen composite video, S-video, component, and VGA. That technology is at least probably 25 plus years old. Composite's probably more towards 40 plus years old. So it's in our opinion, I think most people would say that that's probably pretty dead connectivity or ways to transmit audio and video from point A to point B. Does anybody here still use or see VGA being used in their colleges or classrooms? Really?
I'm trying to get rid of it.
How is it being used? Is it just for laptops?
Yeah.
I'm assuming?
We got some old microscopes that are sticking around for a long time.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Rooms that are running on projectors that are BNC and stuff still.
Still five wire BNC or RGB HV. Okay. Is it because of budgetary constrictions you can't buy new technology? Okay. So how are you supporting people that don't have laptops that have?
They use the analog computer in there.
Okay. All right.
Usually like a HDMI to VGA.
You're converting.
Adapter at the laptop.
But I guess the general consensus is that technology is fairly dead
Trying to get rid of it.
and pushing along.
It should die.
Okay. So we got smart folks from Portland State. Are you mandating at this point in time saying, no, sorry, we're not going to support it anymore, or are you still supporting it?
We still have VGA inputs in our classrooms just because it's available on the switcher we use.
Okay.
Configurable analog inputs, so what the heck. We've got some old people have some old stuff they still want to use. The old microscopes, they're sticking around for a while. They're big and expensive, so the science department kind of wants to get rid of them.
But no DVDs in the classrooms, right?
No DVDs.
No VHS cassette decks in the class? Okay. That's good to know. Interesting. I'm glad to hear that. The last time I did this, everybody was like, no, VGA is gone. We have dictated that you're not allowed to use anything analog in the classrooms any further. Something that's waning, DVI, obviously, when it came out was a big deal because it was a true digital format with multiple formats within it. Mini display port, which is essentially USB-C. Probably people still see that kind of hanging around. We see it continuing to just kind of wither and die. And DisplayPort in and of itself, while we do have a couple devices that still have DisplayPort on it, you're seeing that is, I think, starting to dwindle as well. Is anybody here actively using DisplayPort on any of their peripherals, or is that pretty much a thing of the past? You're still using DisplayPort?
Our computers have a DisplayPort output.
Okay.
We can't get IT to not buy those, so we're kind of stuck with them until they
Right.
buy something else.
All right. So there's.
Are you using
Okay, so you're not using the full band. Okay, got it.
We do as well. We have our computers come with them, but our monitors in the classrooms also have it. So it's actually kind of nice since those cables lock in.
Yeah,
But that's the only case.
the locking part is great, yeah.
Yeah.
That's the one thing I don't like, well, there's a couple things I don't like about HDMI, but the lack of locking is one.
Yeah.
Right. So I think you're seeing a common evolution that as we go from this very broad spectrum of a lot of different connectivity types, we're kind of coming up to the tip of the pyramid, and I think most people would say that HDMI and USB-C are becoming kind of the prominent way, or becoming the only way to start connecting devices into AV pieces and also laptops. My last laptop only had a USB-C output on it, and so I have to have a nice little dongle, annexed dongle or anchored that converts USB and or HDMI to USB-C as well. So which leads us to a bigger conversation. The laptops, or most of your students, what are they using in the classrooms? I'm assuming it's a heavy Mac environment. Is that a true statement or not a true statement? Are most students walking in with a device that really only has HDMI or USB-C? Probably so. So this is kind of the cable type evolution that we're seeing, and we've tried to follow this pathway with our products, both from 3 to 4 years ago and moving forward. This is kind of a USB evolution of cable types. I actually pulled this off of one of the USB forums about a year and a half ago. It's a pretty cool slide. If anybody wants the slide, I'm more than happy to have it. I've had some technology guys that didn't even know this existed, and they kind of went through it. But this again goes through the evolution of where USB 1 came out, USB 1.1, 2.0, the different cable types, connectors. The bottom line is there's a lot of different cable types and connectors that we've seen over the past many years, and everybody hates dongles, everybody hates adapters. You know, Amazon is one of our biggest customers, and when you walk into their conference rooms, they have little tiny dongles sitting at each desk that people can use to convert signals to, and it's a big pain in the butt. About a year ago, Amazon approached us and said, hey, one of our C-level persons, which I think was number 3 to Jeff Bezos, says, I want all of these adapters out of our conference rooms. I'm done with them. I'm tired of them. I want a USB-C cable in the conference room and or an HDMI, and that is it. If people can't connect via that, then we're doing something wrong. So again, at the bottom of the evolution scale, you're seeing that the USB-C type connector is really becoming the more standardized way to connect devices. With the advancements in the software codecs, obviously when we had hardware codecs, we had to have HDMI or some way of connecting into devices, which included USB A or B. But with the software clients obviously becoming, or I know running the world, we're now not needing those types of connections. So, you know, obviously with your Zoom rooms, and I know some people have opinions about Zoom rooms, that's great. But again, most people now are running conferencing off of laptops, at least in the enterprise space and the higher ed space. If I'm completely talking out the side of my butt, please let me know. The last few meetings I had a meeting with Clark College just across the water. They're in a POC with us, and they're moving forward. Their big thing was how do we connect our laptops, and how do we get host ports, and how do we do all this with the current AV devices you have? And the answer was, well, you can't. You don't have any type of way to get USB peripherals into your current devices, so you're going to have to run third-party, extension products and these types of other things. And then, of course, the question comes up, what about Zoom room systems? And I said, well, do you want to manage another 550 endpoints on your network, and you want to have to deal with firmware updates and all this other good stuff? The Portland State guys, do you guys run separate Zoom rooms, or do you prefer to just have everything on the laptops? What is your... Do you? Yeah. I've heard from 3 people at the show. They're like, we have scattered, actual hardware Zoom room peripherals, and we're removing them because they're just an additional management nightmare. So to our point, we're finding that, again, this is enterprise, but we are seeing this ramp over into the education space. The idea of an MTR, which MTRs really aren't used in the education space, but having a Zoom room peripheral is just another piece of another device to manage. And if that goes down, then it kind of kills that homeroom experience. Whereas, yes, a laptop could go down, but for the most part, the students have licenses. It's just a lot easier to just have this to manage than this and that and a bunch of other devices in the room to manage. So I guess the bottom line is we're seeing that obviously software is ruling the world with regards to conferencing. And again, the hardware-based devices, at least first in the education space, are kind of like, it was a good idea, but now we're kind of pushing back. obviously, software codecs as we felt, have saved the world. They've made life a lot easier for IT folks and whatnot, because it's, again, what's one less device to manage in the conferencing space. We're seeing our document cameras have gone from HDMI or VGA over to USB. Obviously, cameras have gone to USB. You still have HDMI-based cameras, but again, most people are probably running a USB-type peripheral in their classroom. Our laptops all have some sort of USB connectivity, whether it's USB A, B, C. They pretty much all have them. And then, of course, your hardware devices, your actual in-room computers all have USB ports on them as well. So how do we switch all this? That's always been the big question. Do we have these little third-party boxes that switch things? How do we get that USB into our AV peripherals? And this is something we've concentrated on for the past 3 or 4 years, which has kind of set us apart from others. Again, cameras, interactive flat panel displays. We're finding that this is becoming a big push in the K-12 space. I don't know what you're seeing, but are you investing in the interactive flat panel displays in your higher ed space, or is it still pretty much you are?
Just main thing, if that department is really gonna use it, if they're gonna use the interactive piece of it.
Sure.
Then we'll get for instance, we've got some new line interactive displays.
Sure.
But as long as they're really gonna use them, otherwise, we don't want just, since they're more expensive than a non-touch, then, if it's not really gonna be used, then you try to avoid putting the panel everywhere.
Are they using just annotation? Do the instructors just want the annotation, or is there a specific program that they run on the devices? They're running the Windows platform, and that's how that classroom is being managed, or is it just a USB peripheral that they can run off their laptops?
Yeah, all different. Sometimes they use, like, if it's got like a whiteboard function, they use that, or like you said, annotation for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Being able to, while they're control the computer. Just in terms of just being able to be at the panel and using it for
Sure.
getting to programs and that kind of thing.
Okay. So it's being used. Oh, go ahead, Gary.
I was going to say, as you mentioned about the K-12 market, so at our campus, the College of Education wanted some, so they got experience for going out to schools with it.
Sure. And that's it. Again, the K-12 market, obviously, there's a big paradigm shift in moving away from these into the interactive flat panel displays, because the students can be more involved, and the teachers are running specific applications, and we totally understand that, which is great. Which leads me into additional peripherals. We're now seeing all-in-one sound bars with built-in cameras. How do we get those into our AV systems? It's almost all USB. Same thing with miking and audio. I've been in this business since I was born into it. My family's been in the business since 1955. And I remember when the first DSPs had acoustic echo canceling built into them. I mean, we had to have those in our classrooms for not only voice lift, but also for back then, conferencing. And as the technology's grown, we now have nice sound bars that have built-in miking systems. We have tabletop mics, we have ceiling mics, we have all these wonderful things that give us this great audio experience. And now the DSPs have USB on them. So we can now use those DSPs in the conferencing spaces, and we can also use them with additional peripherals. Keyboards and mice, all USB. And then we've talked about document cameras, all USB. So where are we going with all this? We have this wonderful video distribution stuff. We have audio amplification, which has been fantastic. It's great. Everybody wants very simplified control. But again, once we added this USB peripheral piece, distribution, host, and hubs, things started to kind of get wonky for people, because again, we didn't have a central source to switch all that into. Everything had to be done either point to point or through some third-party device. And if anybody has anything that is on the contrary, please let me know, but I think that's a pretty true statement based on our findings. I want to talk about some solutions. So everybody's used a point-to-point USB extender, right? But those point-to-point extenders usually don't carry control. They don't carry additional feature sets that most people might want to use in their education or enterprise type spaces. Generally, wall plates in the past have been HDMI, VGA with a 1/8" plug for audio and those types of things. You generally didn't see USB wall plates. You didn't see USB wall plates with USB-C, let alone additional control. You didn't see receivers over HDBaseT that had host and hub ports, that had control, that had all these other USB-centric types of inputs and outputs on them. You didn't see matrix switches with true host and hub switching capabilities. We didn't see wireless presentation built into these types of devices. There's just a lot of things we didn't see until about probably 4 or 5 years ago, until USB started to become a big push in the AV space. So again, I'm going to run through just a couple products. I don't want this to be sales pitchy. I just want you to see some of the things that we're doing and some of the things that could come in your mind and say, hey, we could use that. These devices that we sell are agnostic. You don't have to control them with our devices. If you're using Crestron or if you're using Extron, great. I have plenty of campuses that like our switches, but they want to stay with their control system. Fine, we don't care. We're just helping them solve a problem with their USB peripherals, and that's kind of where we're coming from on this. Again, everybody's looked at this, seen this. This is a particular product that we make that has multiple hub devices and single hosts for transmitting USB 2.0 from point to point. Very simple product. Nothing fancy here. Probably everybody's used one of these. As we kind of grow into the technology, we came out with a product 2.5 to 3 years ago that is a full 3.0 product. And this was meant to solve more of the small conference room space, not necessarily used in the classroom, but again, this was our first, multi-input, multi-output with multi-hub and single host product, so that I can now switch not only 2.0 capable products, but I can also switch and or use 3.0 capable products within that 4 meter cable length restriction. What is missing on this product? If you were to extend this out to something, what is missing on it? Exactly. So this product was designed for more of a smaller huddle space environment, but again, it gives the opportunity to just have one USB-C cable in the conference space. And once I plug that in, I have audio, video, and I have a full host port with power as well in that conference space. So I now have access to any peripherals that are plugged into that box. We're actually designing a box for Amazon and for the larger enterprise space that will have an HDBaseT output on this. So I can now take this box, run that out to a display or a projector for a very simple meeting space. Now, when you extend, right now the technology is limited. It's not a 3.0 type extension. We have a significant relationship with Valens and with Icron because we've been doing this for so long that we understand what the new chipsets are going to look like, how they're going to work. We are able to transmit 128, I think it's meg, over HDBaseT, which is 2.0. We do have a network video product called Omni. It's a 311, 324. That's USB over IP, and we can get the full, Donald, 308, is it 4? I get 400 megabits per second over IP. Obviously, our goal is to, once the chipsets become more mature, is to go right to a 3.2 type of extension capability, which will give you, I think it's 10 gig, if I'm not mistaken. So it's getting there. Everybody's asking, when are you going to have this? When are you going to have this? We like this. This is great, but we want 3.0 or 3.2. And we ask you people, why do you need, or what is the immediate desire for that type of bandwidth for your conference spaces or for your classrooms? And people say, well, we need it for proprietary devices. Microsoft is a customer of ours. Well, we need 3.2 for proprietary devices that need certain types of control that go over those transport protocols. But generally, for general conferencing, Zoom codecs at max are, I think, 720 frames of video over the internet. Teams is actually 640. It's actually less. So you don't need 3.0 to get a high quality video conferencing call. It's a big misnomer. It's a limitation of the codec. So, if your projector is only capable of 4K and you're going to try and give it 8K, you're not getting 8K out of it. So again, it's still somewhat of a misnomer. But again, we are getting to that point where we're getting close. People ask because of the fact that we invested so heavily in the USB space. Again, these are just some real simple schematics of how this might be used. Again, maybe not in a classroom, but in maybe a small conference space. So again, a customer can walk in with their laptop, plug in one USB-C cable, and then they have access to any and all those peripherals that are plugged into that device. And this just continues to grow and grow. So as we go into the extension products, I can have a TX device either at my podium, I can have it underneath the table. I can plug in USB, I can plug in HDMI, and I can just send that to a receiver. We've got a plethora of receivers that also have host and hub ports as well. We do have some applications where, and I'll bring up Microsoft for example. We run 7 room types, and those rooms do not have any control in them whatsoever. It's our transmitter that sits underneath the table, one USB-C cable. They plug in a laptop, they run their Teams call. Once that's plugged in, it actually sends information to a receiver like such, which has multiple hosts, multiple hub, multiple NIC, relay, contact closure, 232, and then their camera and their audio device runs off that. That also controls a projector. It's completely hands-on, hands-off. Once they plug in, it sends script, does everything for the room. They do their Teams call. They can use whatever audio is in the room via USB. When they walk away, there's, I think, a 5-minute timeout. It shuts everything off, and they're done. That simplified 7 room types on campus, so there's no Crestron touch panel, there's no Crestron controller. They've got access to all their USB devices via one USB-C cable. So they took a room that was probably a $10,000 conference room and took it down to probably, from a control standpoint, I believe they've invested $1,500 in our equipment, and then the rest of it's just a projector and a projector screen. Again, I'm just giving you some ideas of how people are using the transmitter receiver. They're very simple extension products in their enterprise space. And we're finding that more and more campuses that we work with, again, that are using the Trons, which is fine, they're going, hey, wait a minute, we see a need for this. Can we still use this and have it controlled via this? Yes, you can. We're totally fine with that. We're an open agnostic platform. Yes?
What's the FW port?
Excuse me? Firmware.
Oh, firmware, okay.
Yes. Anything that also has a LAN can be updated via your laptop as well.
Okay. My brain went to FireWire, and I couldn't figure out what the FireWire port is.
Yeah, interesting. That's pretty cool. And then this is just a kitted solution. Again, it's the receiver and it's the actual transmitter together. And as we go through this, please feel free to stop me. Wall plates, we've been known for wall plates. We introduced, and I don't have it specifically here, but this is an example of a wall plate that does have HDMI, a device port, and a host port. About 2.5 years ago, we launched the first single gang wall plate that had a full USB-C host port, and it was a 2x1 actual wall plate, auto switching wall plate, and it also had an HDMI with host and hub on it as well. So now I can walk into a classroom. I could have it, mounted in the wall. I could have have it in the podium. I can literally just take that, plug that in, and that USB-C cable now has audio, video, and full host capabilities. And then that goes into one of our devices that has an HD-based input, which has all your video switching, audio switching, control, and all that other happy good stuff. And now I have a full USB ecosystem in my classroom and not have to deal with additional switching devices. It's all built to one complete matrix. And we'll kind of show you what that would look like. But again, this is just a very simple, so this is our Astro W21 wall plate. We probably, in most of the applications that we go into schools with and higher enterprise, this is what they're standardizing on. Because again, this gives them the best of both worlds. It's a very cost-effective device to use. It's auto switching. And again, it gives them all of the USB capabilities that they need in one cable. So now we've even simplified the classroom or the conference room even more. And then here's a real simple schematic. So again, I know your classrooms are far more complex than this, but again, I'm just giving you scenarios and examples of how these are being used out in the real world.
On that particular one there, how would it typically be powered? Just on one end and then power goes through the
Yep, absolutely. And then as we get further into the receiving section of this, again, this is what Microsoft uses on their campus. Most of the universities and colleges that I've been flipping, that receiver is becoming kind of the backbone of their system because it has the peripheral ports. It also has additional HDMI input in as well. So this actually becomes an additional input into their solution. So again, this can sit up with the projector behind display, and they can then take there's my hub ports. So in this particular case, I happen to have a digital AI camera that I can plug into this, and that I can take this out to a Shure system, any type of a USB audio system that I so desire. Now I'm running one cat cable from point A to point B, and these are my peripherals that plug into this. I've also got, again, I've got discrete 232 control, I've got relay. It's also got a dual NIC built into it. And then I've also got my audio outputs, and I've also got my HD-based input as well. Powerful little device. So now I can take the most simplest of solutions with just a wall plate if I want to that complex receiver, and I've now got a nice holistic conference room or classroom, or I can take it out of my larger switches and give yourself a lot more capability. The standard classroom design that we've been seeing is it's been either one of our 5x2 switches or a 6x2 switches, which usually lives in the podium. It could live in a rack. They're marrying this up with this device. Again, one cable. They're using an HDMI cable and giving the customer an HDMI and USB-C, and that's it. They're either using a touch panel or they're setting it to auto switch. The DSP, I'm not going to say the days of the DSPs are going away, but at least for the customers I'm flipping, they're going to more of a USB-centric audio system. They don't want to have to do a bunch of crazy programming and maintaining of DSP, which is not difficult, but it's just a new way of thinking. And this is a real simple schematic of what, again, a wall plate to a simple receiver would look like. We're going to jump more into the larger matrix devices. So in this particular case, this would be one of our 4x2 switches. Again, this can be controlled by anybody else's control system if you already got an existing control system, but you want to incorporate the USB app, portions into it. This is a simple way to run a classroom now. I don't know if anybody, does anybody here use more than 4 or 5 inputs in a classroom anymore? I mean, I looked at the inputs here, and I think they're using 2 of, I don't know what the DMPS units are here. I think are they 2 somethings? But yeah, I mean, they're basically giving the customer an HDMI cable. I didn't see a USB-C, but I know there was at least one HDMI at the podiums. So again, in this particular case, there's your host and hub ports. You got your HDB-HT outputs. You've got plethora of inputs, including USB-C, and this is also a charging port as well. So it'll maintain charge on your laptops. It's putting out 60 watts of power. And whatever I plug into the hub devices on the far end, I've got access to. And I think almost every instructor, and please correct me if I'm wrong, I'm assuming most instructors that run Zoom or Teams or Google Meets off their laptops understands how to pick those peripherals. Or is that still a big learning curve? Donald, what is our best, when we have been setting up some of the last few universities, are they just, when they plug a laptop in, I know it's automatically populating the peripherals within the Zoom or the Teams software. Does it remember the last USB devices used in that software? Do they physically go to?
All the USB devices get registered into your registry on your computer. So next time you plug it in, it'll recognize it, and it'll bring back all the, like say for instance, if you have a dedicated webcam that you're using for Teams, if you plug it back in, again, it'll recognize that same device is there, and it'll make sure that one's the primary.
Right. So it's not an act of Congress for them to go try and find it. Mm-hmm. Yeah. How many of your, again, and this is a legitimate question, how many of your instructors that you talk to, are they pretty competent in navigating the Zoom platform? I'm assuming that's the platform of choice, sort of. Gonzaga, I'm assuming your tech calls are not, hey, I don't know how to figure out which camera to use. It's.
Yeah, they're pretty used to it. They got used to it with COVID.
Okay.
We've been Zoom for a while.
If they've been trained adequately to use the system, then it's good, but a lot of them still do a little fumbling.
Sure.
Yeah.
But giving them the access to everything via one is a nicety.
Yes.
Perfect. And again, here's a nice little line diagram. So in this particular case, you see we're using a much simpler, less expensive receiver that still has 2 device ports, it still has LAN, it still has control, but again, it doesn't have all the additional bells and whistles of this guy. So it's not going to have your relays, it's not going to have your additional HDMI inputs, but again, it's a very simple, inexpensive way to route USB to the monitor up to the projector. And I'm going to pass this because it's basically the same thing, but I'm going to bring you into something bigger. So we do offer our largest switch at present is a full 6x2, and this is meant for even your larger potential divisible spaces. So if you needed to have 2 HD-based T peripherals, let's say you wanted 2 wall plates in a room, as well as a local podium input. This gives you the opportunity to have a couple SW21s or whatever wall plates that you want to use on the Omega side, still have USB-C, still have 3.0 capabilities if you're within the cable length restrictions of the switch, still give you an HDBaseT out and HDMI out, audio, miking, and the whole bit. And again, this is just a larger matrix. But again, these HDMI or HDBaseT inputs, depending on the wall plate, will also act as full host ports as well. So if I were to take that really fancy wall plate or this wall plate, you now have additional points to plug USB and video sources into. And now you have this, again, a very large ecosystem of USB and AV all playing in the same space. Is this all making sense? Did anybody know that we had this, or we've been doing this now for like, what, 4.5 years? No. I got an interesting call from, and I'll just throw this out there, from a guy named Sean Cotter at Spokane School District community college about a year ago. And he said, hey, I'm having this big problem. I don't understand how I'm paying $3,500 for these cameras and these custom $800 cables, and I'm trying to get them through walls and all this other stuff. And I'm like, well, Sean, what are you trying to do? He's like, well, I'm just trying to pass, USB and control the cameras down to my DMPS, and I'm breaking these cables. And I'm like, well, why aren't you just doing everything over HDBaseT? And he just didn't. He goes, can you do that? I'm like, well, of course you can do that. And so we sent in a plethora of tools and said, here you go, here's your POC. And within a matter of about 20 minutes, we had a fully functioning classroom with their cameras, our cameras, control. They were actually put their stuff on their network. And we were doing, I had Donald on the phone call doing a Teams call through this exact same system running through their infrastructure. And they just couldn't fathom how they didn't understand that they could transmit USB, control, and all this stuff over HDBaseT, more so the USB. And so they held onto the gear for about 4 or 5 months, and they said, hey, we're going to move forward with it. We like it. We like the fact that you just saved us $3,500 worth of cameras and cables in their conference spaces. So, and they're still going to use Crestron for certain rooms and for certain control, and they're running control, our control platform for these devices as well until they kind of phase that out. But the USB side of it was the big reason that they switched, because HDMI is HDMI and USB-C is where people are going, and now their instructors, most of you who use Macs, can plug in and away they go. It's just,
So on the left you've got the USB 2.0, but it looks like on here it's actually 3.0 on the picture. So
correct.
Are there 2.0s that I'm missing, or just?
So they're 3.0 ports. Once you extend over HDBaseT, then things go, because the chipsets just aren't there yet. So when those chipsets become available and we're able to comfortably manufacture a product that will pass 3.0, 3.2, then that will be a humongous announcement. But yeah, and if you have a 3.0 or 3.2 camera, we're not going to say that all of the cameras will work on a 2.0 platform. It really depends on the manufacturer. Most of the cameras that we're seeing are used that are outside of our cameras are 3.0 or better, are all working just fine. And if there's a question, usually, they'll say, hey, we're using this particular camera. Have you tested it? And we have tested a ton of cameras on the 3.0, 3.2 side just to check for compliancy. We're not doing anything special in our devices. We're not taking the Valence chipsets or the Icon chipsets and making anything proprietary, so to speak. We're not going to do that because it just wouldn't be fair. You'd lock out probably half the world and half the cameras. So it's an open standard USB spec. But yeah, if you're worried about a camera not working, you just call Donald, myself, or call our tech support team, and they'll say, yeah, if they haven't tested it, then they'll be like, yeah, send it in. We'll go ahead and put it on the test bed and test it, or we'll just send you a transmitter receiver and you test it yourself. Yeah. And again, here's a simple schematic of what a system might look like. Again, there's our SW21 wall plate with host and hub. And then there's a simple TX device, a transmitter device that could live underneath a table or some other place. And there's your central switching device. And then you've got a very simple receiver on the far side. So as everybody kind of understands, this creates now a whole cohesive ecosystem with just one platform versus a bunch of crazy other peripherals. Again, these are additional peripherals, but again, everything's built into the central switching box. If anybody's interested, we have a great website. We have actually an Omega Room Builder system that's on the website. So if anybody who's interested in, hey, we want to just try this or play with this, this will actually help you build a room based on the peripherals that you provide it. We just released, and I don't have it in this presentation, but at ISE, we just released our first, as one of my consultants said, it's kind of a DMPS slash, I can't remember what else he called it. So this is our new CS31. This is meant to be housed behind displays or up at projectors. This has 4 hub ports, 2 host ports. It has built-in amplification of 2 25-watt channels, mono 50. It's got full PA sense, PA presence for ducking. It's got a dual NIC. This has, again, 2 host ports. It has a 5-volt charging port for peripheral devices like your phones and tablets, 2 HDMI inputs. Again, this particular unit has an HD-based T input, so this acts as a secondary host port. We also have a 2 traditional hosts, so 3 HDMI input, and then we have a USB-C version of this coming out in about a month and a half. And that'll be 60 watts of charging and all that. So this is a really fancy little tiny product. We did not, that you can use if you're having trouble getting DMPS devices. It does not have the control built into it, but you're going to use your other control platform anyway, so it doesn't matter. The only thing we didn't do, because we wanted to try and keep it small, is we just made it 1 HDMI out. So you just put in a simple transmitter receiver of your choice, whichever works for you. And now you have something that's kind of like this or kind of like that, but in a much smaller platform, and it has your amplification. This is a $2,500 MSRP device. And like I said, we just,
Scale?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Everything we have is scaled. So again, this is a cool little piece. I know a lot of folks here use Crestron. I've had a couple of customers say that, are these available? Yes, they're available. And they find that this can replace some of their older DMPS product that they may or not be able to get. And again, it gives them the USB capabilities that they've been wanting. So we're coming out with new products. Inventive, I think, I don't know if anybody was at our workshop, but we just came out with, again, that works very well with this. And then we'll kind of parlay this meeting down to ending, but we came out with our first e-ink. It's an 8-button controller, but it actually does up to 10 page flips. This is actually a control system in and of itself. We own the intellectual property. We designed this box. This is our first ever cloud configurable keypad. So you can actually configure this via our Atlona cloud, which is where we're kind of going as a company. We're finding that the days of scripting, or at least from our standpoint of view, are going to continue to go away. People want a much easier way to configure systems. And so we already had remote gateway services via the cloud. Now we just incorporated this into the cloud. Eventually you'll see our other UI devices will become configurable via the cloud as well. That doesn't mean you can only configure them in the cloud. It means that I can configure them in the cloud and also configure them 2 or 3 additional ways. These will issue certificates. These will also sync up with our gateways. We are going to open up the API for folks that are Crestron or Extron savvy or QSE savvy. So if you've already got Crestron on campus and you really like this because it does multiple page flips, great, we'll give you the API. In fact, we have, I think the gentleman from Utah that was here, was that Bill? Jim. Jim's interested in potentially, we told him we'd give him the API. He would like to potentially play with this and see how this is going to work with this Crestron products. This will also work with AV over IP platform. This will control up to about, we've tested, I think, 15 endpoints as well. And part of our workshop we did on Tuesday, we actually configured an AV over IP system and set presets, and we're switching with that device as well. So I don't want to get off on that, but this is really more about USB. And we're going to continue to grow the platform. You will see a 3.0 product from us probably in the next year or so, or less. Yes.
Question about the USB 3 from an earlier comment. Does is it the HD-based T that's cutting down the USB 3 capability down to USB 2, or what is it that causes the USB 3 to not
pass?
Yeah.
So it's limitations of the chipsets right now. Yeah. Donald or Jimmy, you want to add?
Yeah, it basically just negotiates and see how much bandwidth it's able to pass, and then if it's able to convert down to USB 2.0, then it'll go ahead and do it.
So is it more like if you had a direct connect to a USB 3 device, it'll do USB 3, it's just
Right.
more
Yes.
a bandwidth issue over HD-based
Yeah,
T?
Correct.
If you're connected to the blue ports on the switcher itself,
Including this.
the host, the blue host, that's a full 3.0 pass.
Yeah.
Got
So we're getting there. Again, it's a limitation of right now the technology. Yes, you can buy an Icron extender. It's a, I don't know, is it a $1,200 or $1,500 extender, and it's limited to just it's a 3.0 device. We were contemplating OEM it, but why? So we're just going to wait until the technology is mature and then jump into it. We have design ideas already in place. It's just we're going to wait until it's ready to go. The last thing we need to do is say, oh, these things work, and then it's all of a sudden they don't work, and you guys are upset with us, and it's just a huge fiasco. We are trying to also, I do have a question. If we did have a 3.0 product that worked in this ecosystem and it required 2 cat cables just for bandwidth purposes versus 1, would that be a problem, or do you find it anybody really caring?
I'm not trying to have it be 1.
I'm sorry?
I'm not trying to rather have it be 1.
Cat 6A? Okay. And what's more important, the data quality or the data transmission or the video quality?
Yes, and future proofing.
So you'd prefer to see a higher video quality over 1? Because there's 2 ways to skin the cat, and you understand where I'm going. You can push more bandwidth through 2 cat cables than you can through 1, but again, certain chipsets say, yes, we can get this quality out of 1, and some people say, no, you want to get the max quality, then go 2. So what is video, I'd say, is video quality more important to you in the education space versus data quality, or is it you want both? I guess my question is, are you really going to be pushing video that much? Are you pushing 4K now? Is that no, 1080p is more than adequate. Yeah.
But when am I going to update it again? You know?
Understand. So everybody would like to see at least 1 cable.
I'd love to see.
Okay. Cool.
I don't want to carry 2 boxes across campus or pull 1 cable with a string and pull it again. You know, get 1 across.
So if it took additional 6 months, 8 months, you'd rather just say, hey, let's just wait and let's see if we can get the best quality we can out of 1 Cat 6 plus cable and not have the 2.
HDMI, 2 cables, and you pull out 1 cable.
So in other words, I guess what I'm hearing is that 3.8, 3.0, 3.2 is really not that big of a deal right now. Okay. I think we're just one last thing I want to let you folks know. I don't have any of my current customers in here, but we do offer a VIAP program for our education customers. It's free. The minute you sign up for it, anything you buy from us, you accumulate points. Those points can be redeemed for a product directly through us. So, some of our current customers, every year they'll send in their points. They'll be, buy additional switches, additional transmitter devices, additional control, and this starts at $1. I don't know if anybody else that has a program like this that starts at $1, but we do. So if there's any interest, please reach out to myself and we can discuss it further. Was that helpful? Was it repetitive? Did it make sense? Any questions? I know we got a lot of smart people in the room. Is anybody here using or have transitioned to USB audio systems or finding that it's easier to integrate because there's just less work to be done, less management, or a lot of people really sticking to the big hardware processors? What's your opinion on that whole audio front?
On our campus, we've been sticking with the hardware processors. So we have a lot of bi-amp stuff. We have a lot of Extron DSP stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And because a lot of our classroom technology is older, we found trying to move to USB is a little problematic for us. We're not there yet on the campus.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a little bit of the campus culture that we need to take into consideration. So if we redesigned the entire building, okay, that's one thing. But usually we're kind of doing it on a classroom by classroom basis. So it's we have to keep in mind what we already have.
Sure.
So.
Sure.
And that's just it, right? Like, not every classroom is the same, but we want to keep standard across all classrooms. So having the availability to do
Sure.
digital or analog or whatever else
Yeah.
makes the most sense for us.
Gotcha. Would you, if you had, and I'm just going to throw this out and then I'll end this, because everybody talks, with the quality of the new USB audio devices that are out, the new Shure products, the Sennheiser products, the STEM products, everybody and their mother's making a good quality USB audio system. Would you be recommending, hey, take a look at USB, not only traditional DSP depending on the room sizes, or do you have any opinion either way?
I'm gonna be a little bit honest, we've been talking about USB a lot, and, we've all had our issues over the years, so saying that, we're not gun shy about USB a little bit.
Sure.
This is stuff that we know that works. I mean, it's getting better, and it's gonna be everywhere, but like, are we willing to make that jump right now?
Gotcha. That's good to know. It's good to know. Any other?
All the DSPs converted to USB, but it's right there.
Sure. Any other questions? Nope. Good. Appreciate y'all coming, man. Enjoy the rest of the show.